In the restless heart of Lagos, where spirits whisper beneath the noise of traffic, and prayers cling to concrete like ivy, there lived a couple who seemed untouchable. Andy and Chiamaka. They were the kind of couple that made people say, "Nah, God day do this one." Handsome, graceful, inseparable, like two halves of a sacred coin. Andy was tall, his frame cut like sculpture, with a strength that wasn't loud but undeniable. He wore his masculinity like a crown, clean, calm, and commanding. Chiamaka was his contrast, a warm, radiant beauty with skin the color of ripe cocoa, and eyes that glowed even in silence. She carried peace like perfume. Her presence softened hard spaces. In their cozy Surulere mansion, laughter lived in the walls. Neighbors called them the couple of light. Every morning, hymns floated out their windows, and every night, prayer soaked their walls. People whispered about them like a secret they wanted to protect. But Lagos is not a city of stillness. And peace, when left unguarded, attracts hunger. Started small. That's how the worst things always begin. The day Andy forgot to pray before leaving for work, the sun hung strangely in the sky. Chiamaka's plant, a hibiscus she had raised from seed, withered overnight. A crack appeared in the bathroom mirror, spiderweb thin, even though nothing had touched it. She didn't mention it. The next day, Andy came home late. The food was cold. The room lights flicker as if shivering. Chiamaka didn't greet him at the door like she used to. Her voice was different, softer, uncertain. That night, for the first time in years, they didn't pray together. And that was when it entered. Not through the door. Not through the window. Through the silence. They didn't notice it at first. That's the thing with spirits older than memory. They don't crash in. They creep. They make themselves comfortable. Andy began to sleep with his back to her. Chiamaka began to dream of drowning, of walls bleeding water, of something scratching under the bed. She would wake up breathless but say nothing. And then the laughter. One night, as she washed her hands in the kitchen, she heard a giggle. Child's giggle. Oh, innocent. But there were no children nearby. When she turned, the living room lights flickered once. Then off. Andy came in irritated. "You off the gen?" She stared at him. "You didn't hear that." "Hear what?" The giggle returned. From behind him. He froze. They slept with the lights on that night. The next morning, Andy's face was pale. He had dreamt of something sitting on his chest. Woman. Hair covering her face. Breathing in sync with him. "She whispered my name," he muttered. "Like she was waiting for me." Chiamaka clutched her Bible. But the pages were wet. But they said nothing to anyone. Who would believe them? They were the perfect couple. But the house was no longer quiet. It creaked in corners that had no reason to move. The smell of ashes crept in from nowhere. Andy's once peaceful demeanor began to crack. He lost his temper at work. Home. Chiamaka would flinch at shadows. They stopped touching. The bed grew colder. One evening, Chiamaka tried to pray, but her voice caught in her throat. She felt a hand on her shoulder. Cold. Bony. Andy was asleep. She whispered, "Jesus." The hand vanished. That week, the neighbor's cat screamed all night facing their window. By morning it was dead. They sealed the doors, poured anointing oil on every threshold. But the presence only grew. They began to hear whispers, not in the air but in the walls. "Leave him," it told Chiamaka. "She doesn't love you anymore," it told Andy. One night, they heard footsteps between them in the bed. Not on the floor. On the bed. Andy turned and for a second, just a second, he saw her. Long hair. Skin like rot. Eyes like tunnels. She smiled at him. He didn't sleep that night. Chiamaka ran to Ikorodu the next day. To her grandmother, Mama Ikioma. Mama Ikioma was a woman the village feared and loved. They said she once cursed a tree to bleed. She listened to her granddaughter's tale without blinking. She whispered, "You and Andy built your home like an altar. But you abandoned the offering. When praise stopped, something else answered." Chiamaka began to cry. "Can it be undone?" Mama Ikioma reached for a gourd of salt water, 7 cowries, and a clay pot. Go back. But be warned, the spirit does not like to be noticed. If you confront it, it will fight. That night, Chiamaka stood at the doorway, cowries in her left hand, salt water in her right. Andy sat on the couch, gaunt, silent, staring at nothing. Chiamaka said the first prayer in weeks. Soft, trembling cry. The mirror shattered. The lights burst. Andy screamed. Not in pain. In fear. Something was standing behind her. He couldn't move. She kept praying. The wind rose inside the house. The candle flared. A voice screamed from the wall. A deep, guttural sound not made for human ears. The cowries in her palm burned hot. Andy collapsed. Then silence. Not peace. Stillness. Chiamaka crawled to him, tears on her face. Andy, wake up. Please. His body was cold. No breath. He screamed. Suddenly he gasped, eyes wide. I saw it, he whispered. It wore your face. They didn't sleep that night. They burned incense. They sang until dawn. They washed the walls in prayer. For 3 nights they fasted. On the 4th the dream stopped. The whispers ended. The house grew warm again. They held each other like survivors of war. 'Cause they were. But some things remained. The bathroom mirror never stopped cracking, no matter how many times they changed it. The hibiscus plant bloomed, then withered, then bloomed again. And every once in a while, when they forget to pray, a soft giggle echoes from the hallway. Because some spirits, once invited, never truly leave. And some cracks, once opened, never fully close.